The moment that she told me in a one-on-one that she was looking for another role because she loved the work she was doing, she loved our relationship, but she couldn't handle the burnout that she was experiencing, that was such a wake-up call for me.
That wake-up call that Lauren Dreyer just described, it's happening everywhere. Our best people are burning out because of how we're leading them.
That's right, Kate. Lauren discovered something at Fidelity that every leader attempting distributed leadership needs to understand, right? That before you can transform thousands of people working in your unit, in your department, you first must do the work of transforming yourself.
Yeah, and after hearing that really tough feedback from her key team member, Lauren made a radical shift. She stopped being the decision bottleneck and taught her team how to think like owners. The result was impressive, a 60% productivity increase with much happier people and a lot less stress.
That's right, Kate. And, the happiness and the less stress, those carried over to Lauren herself. She was now able to free up a bunch of time to do the kind of work that she aspired to do as a leader, whether it was spotting new opportunities, solving systemic problems, and developing talent. And in today's conversation, I'm so glad that Lauren is able to unpack in a very practical way how to build teams capable of handling genuine autonomy and act with ownership.
I'm really excited to dig in. She's got a fantastic story to tell.
When did you kind of get to the point where you said, I need to find an alternative to the traditional way we have teams operate and the way I lead a team?
I had either worked on the periphery of teams that were using Agile or then inherited a team where I had some sort of practitioners on the team, former IBM associates, for example, who brought the knowledge and the tools with them and said, hey, we should try this. We should use these approaches to how we work. What I realized through some tough 360 feedback from my team was that I hadn't really embraced the mindsets behind the tools and the practices. So we were using sprints, as they say, in Scrum and breaking down work to small increments. But I really saw that as something the team did, and I was still operating in a manner that was more traditional, where I would go to meetings with the senior executives who were giving us direction. I would make commitments on behalf of the team, and then I would come back and sort of info dump what I had heard and what we needed to do and deliver, and then let the team organize around it. The really difficult moment after I had gotten some feedback from the team, that the pace was relentless, they were feeling really burnt out. I didn't make the connection to what I was doing. It always felt like it was about the workload and the demands that were coming at us. The big moment for me then was I had a top performer on my team who was actually leading others and leading the team on behalf of the work we were doing. And the moment that she told me in a one-on-one that she was looking for another role because she loved the work she was doing, she loved our relationship, but she couldn't handle the burnout that she was experiencing, that was such a wake-up call for me. Because what I realized was, even though every week in our one-on-ones I was saying, I know it's crazy right now, let me know what I can do, let me know, what we need to do to make this better. Because I hadn't embraced the mindset of giving the team, empowering the team to tell me what was doable and what was possible, I wasn't giving her the space, and I wasn't working with her to figure out what could the trade-offs be. Instead, I was just giving her one more task that she would turn around and say, I don't even know where to start.
Lauren, I think you're keying in on something that is such a hot topic for our viewers who are interested in distributed leadership, but as you point out, are worried about losing control. And what advice would you give them when they're at that moment where you were at, where they think they want to distribute some decision-making power, but are wondering if their team can really do it?
I would say, start by getting exposure to some of these concepts and methodologies in a more meaningful way, and see if there is someone on the team who could be a champion. So when this has worked really well for me with different teams, I've had a person on the team who either had experience with the methodology or at least had heard about it. But in each case, there was a person who was bought into the idea and they became kind of a champion with the rest of the team. But then I think it's really important for the whole team to be on the journey together. So that to me would be step one, explore the concepts and the methodologies. Usually there are opportunities that might be prompting a leader or a team to say, we need to do something differently. So, take advantage of that moment, whether it's you need to stand up a new team, which was the case for me in several cases, or we're burnt out. We can't keep working this way. Let's get together and let's talk about some different options for what we can do. And I think once everyone's kind of bought in on the idea of let's work differently, then deciding on the tools and where you'll start as a team really kind of starts the process. From there, it's a real journey. And if people are wondering if their team's capable, it may not feel like they are at first. So I think the buy-in is really the key part. What I've seen with multiple teams is months of iteration where there is a back and forth between the leader and the team that essentially takes the form of, do you really trust us to decide ourselves how we want to approach XYZ? Yes, I really do trust you. Here's how I would think about this. You start to develop that different way of working while building the system together. I think that gives you a chance to see where is the team at and what are the mindsets that people need to change, including yourself. The individual who really shifted my mindset was the one who kept saying, these tools should work for us as a team. We should only use the things that work for us, and we should adjust them to fit what we're doing. That mindset was something that really opened up a different way of thinking for me and allowed me to say, okay, let me believe in some of the commentary that I've heard about empowering teams, being able to plan better, and see if this is a way that we can try to avoid some of this firefighting and the overwhelm. The example that someone used once, or the analogy that someone used once with this concept was, sometimes when you're painting a room in a house, for example, you might use a screwdriver to open a paint can. That's not what the screwdriver's for, but it's a tool that you can use for that activity in that moment. So when we started to look at these tools and practices and say, how could these help us to not find ourselves in a position where we have made commitments or are being asked to do more than the team is able to take on, that was really when things started to shift and iterate in a way where I was then able to say, here are the things that are most important to the business in relative order. Give the information to the team so that they could see what I could see, and open a dialogue with them, trusting that they would say, ooh, based on what you just said, it sounds like we need to start with A and then B and then C. But if we're going to do C, we can't forget last time we did that, we need to do this other thing first. So they would have an even better approach than I would have had to planning when I shared more information with them, and would then provide me the information and the transparency back by breaking down the work and helping me to go back to other leadership teams or stakeholders or even my leader if we needed to negotiate a deadline or if we needed more resources.
Got it. So it's very interesting. So you gave people the context and the information so they could help inform the decision, but it also sounds that you weren't just getting them to give you input, you were actually involving them in the process of making those tough trade-offs, or at least informing them, right, in a way that was meaningful. So you were delegating a little bit that role that you previously had played by yourself.
I guess if I could talk to my past self, one of the things I realized through this process was it's a way for a leader to also to leverage themselves by teaching team members to think as if they are the leader of the team. There were so many concepts and mindsets that had to be built into the team environment and the trust that we built together that are not traditional in order to get to that place. So you have to break down ideas like, this is my swim lane, that's your territory, you own this, I own this, and really get the team thinking about the team as a whole. And what does it look like if all of the work is being presented to us and it's up to you, all of you, to raise your hand for what you're going to do, to figure out how to collaborate? That can be really messy on the front end. So as a leader, I had to be very proactive with my team about how they were going to be evaluated and what was going to be important to me and all of us, not just the work output and definitely not who's in the spotlight, but how are we getting the work done? What are we delivering? How are we getting the work done? And are you empowering the team and helping your teammates to work better in this new way? When people started to make that shift, I feel like any one of them is sort of sitting in the same seat that I am on any given day, trying to look at the big picture, fit the pieces together and make those trade-off decisions, knowing that it's okay for us to talk about those things. That was another mindset shift that I found. I think a lot of people are taught to always say yes. That's what I learned. Mm-hmm. This is your space. The work is coming at you like a fire hose. Right. And you've just got to figure it out. No one ever asked me, do you have capacity for this? Or right. When do you think you could get this done? So that's another shift that I had to work with people on, to say, hey, I can't read your mind. Please, let's be transparent about whether you're overutilized or underutilized, what you feel comfortable with versus where you need help. Putting those things out in the open and making it okay to talk about resources, capacity, skills, was new for a lot of people and is still something that we work on every day.
Lauren, I'm curious, what are the benefits of this way of working in terms of how your members are engaged, your productivity, your performance, this issue of burnout that I know was driving a lot of the change that happened? Tell us about that.
The benefits have been incredible on all fronts. So when I think about team engagement, it's been huge. The transparency that is built into working this way, the trust that it requires, means that every member of the team feels like they have a say when things are changing as rapidly as they do in today's work environment. I've also seen my team members learn how to think about themselves from a resource planning perspective and how to estimate how long it's going to take to do something. So they feel less overwhelmed when we're talking about something that needs to get done. They sort of naturally start to break it down in their minds and are able to then converse about what do they need, which in the early days was a question a lot of people couldn't answer. How can I help? What do you need? Well, I don't know. So that is something that I think has not only engaged the team, but empowered them with new skills that live on as we approach our work. We've seen huge benefits in how we organize our time and our work together. The work was requiring us to collaborate at a very high level. And we were either using meeting time to run way over time and throw off everyone's schedules, or people were trying to set up ad hoc meetings. We couldn't get the time. There was always too much information to share. So we stepped back and said, in order for us to do our best work, what kind of collaboration is required? How much time do we need? And for what? And let's build that into our routines. So a typical component of a Scrum approach would be a daily check-in for maybe 15 minutes. For my team, we require so much partnership. We spend about an hour together each day. And the team plans ahead of time, whether that will be for a working session, whether it will be for decisions needed, feedback, we have that pre-planned office hours and we cancel it if we don't need it. Because of that, everyone is able to produce at a much higher rate because they know if I need it, I have time tomorrow. I can get my questions answered. I can get blockers cleared. I know how to approach getting input where I need it. And so I think, in terms of results, what has that resulted in? We started out with a sort of a proportion of planning to actual work delivered of 20/80. Or 80/20. So we were spending, 80% of our time on sort of overhead and trying to put this system in place, a lot of strategy and planning work that we always have to do. We knew that would be a part of it. And only 20% was working sessions on actual initiatives and projects we would be delivering. And that completely reversed over the course of a year. So it took some real effort to put this in place. But now we're able to turn on a dime. Every week, we can handle unexpected requests of the team. We can pivot in the matter of a week without the team getting upset or frustrated. So the work output of the team over the course of the year has increased by 60% as well, which has been incredible to see.
The teams you worked with, Lauren, have made obviously an amazing shift, right? In mindsets, in practices, and performance. I'd love to learn how this shift has impacted you. And think about what you spent your time on before this transformation versus now.
Yeah.
How does your set of activities, your role, and how you think about your role, how does that shifted, and what does that feel like to you?
It feels wonderful. I love it. When I think about not just what I spend my time on, but how effective do I feel as a leader, particularly when it comes to knowing that it's important to me. And I think to all leaders who've chosen to be leaders, it's important to us to have teams who are satisfied with what they're doing, hopefully happy. Hopefully they're getting a lot out of their role. Prior to working this way, I focused much more on what was expected of me and my team and how would we deliver that work. Now I focus on how am I developing future leaders? How am I helping each of these individuals who have a different set of skills and backgrounds to develop in a way that works for them and the way that they think to be their best version of the role that they're doing, to grow to a place where if I'm out of the office, if I go on vacation this summer, I know anyone can contact any member of my team and they will know how to at least engage their peers to figure out how to get something done. We don't think about the work in terms of whether you should go to person A or person B or person C for specific skills or experience. It's about capacity or who people may know that they want to reach out to, and then everything comes back to the center and the team works through it. So where I end up spending my time, for the most part, when I'm directly supporting my team, I'm coaching often by request. I feel more like a mentor in most of those conversations than a manager or boss. I'm getting more interesting questions from them. Hey, here's something really tricky about the environment around us and the people we're working with and the stakeholders. How would you approach that? Here's what I was thinking. What do you think? So I find myself spending my direct time with my team in that consultative place or in a place where, like we talked about, I'm sharing information with them, but in a way that feels very engaging and empowering. When I'm on my own, then I get a chance to think about more broadly, where is the business going? And in my role, how can I make sure that I'm seeking out the information and the partnerships that the team needs to be better? And they often let me know what some of those things are as well.
What advice would you have to other leaders who say, I want to be like Lauren? I want that role that she has. What practically could they do to get started?
Any leader could start doing this with their team in any organization. I really believe that. I think it really comes down to that process of engaging the team and bringing them along on the journey of wanting to embrace a new way of working and putting it in place together in a way that makes sense. But I think the mindset shift and the commitment of the leader to trusting the team and wanting to think differently is really the key. And it goes way beyond these practices and processes. So learning some of the systems and the structures is one piece, but I would say make sure you really believe that this is something that you want to do to empower the team. So I've had people on my teams who I learned through weeks and months of coaching, maybe didn't fully believe in the idea of iteration or minimum viable products or bringing back a first pass at something. And they were saying yes to projects that they weren't comfortable owning and then just driving themselves crazy trying to get it perfect. So I think it took 3-4 weeks to even have this person be comfortable sharing that that's what they were doing to themselves behind the scenes and to help them understand, hey, that's not the way we're working. I'm not giving you a project to deliver with perfection. This is a chance for you to try this out and let's define what step one looks like. What does done look like in a week and a half? Why don't you bring a first sketch back to the team and let's look at it together? I've also had people who told me, hey, what you're asking us to do is really different for me. I've been working in a lot of cases. These are my Gen Xers who are saying, I've spent 30 years with leaders just telling me what to do. So it's uncomfortable for me that you're asking me what I want to do or how I want to do it. I've gotten a lot of blank stares in those early days. But the fact that there was that buy-in, that commitment, that excitement from the team to want to build this new way of working, and the fact that I knew it would be a slow process and trusted them was what created the space for that person to share that with me. And that then made me an even better leader. So it is so worth it. If I were to talk to a leader who's skeptical, I would just tell them, I'm so proud of my team every single day. They inspire me. It's really amazing to see how they grow and how they work together, and also how much it's unlocked my potential as a leader.
Lauren, could you give us just 1 or 2 concrete practices that anyone could use to get started so that people can feel empowered to begin on this exciting journey that you've just laid out?
I think once there's the agreement and buy-in, probably one of the most important practices that we've undertaken would be to have custom-sized sprints or periods that you plan together as a team. So a typical sprint could be 1 week to 4 weeks long. We also do quarterly planning as a team. But for me, that's really where I've seen my team learn to think differently, to think like an owner, think like a leader, and learn how to think about resources and capacity, how to prioritize work. It's iterative too, so it takes some time. But that has been a huge game changer. The other related item I would suggest is whatever tools or methodology you use. For us, it's Jira and story writing, having the team members write their own stories or plan their own work in advance prior to these planning sessions or even quarterly planning sessions. They will amaze you with what they come up with the barriers that they can foresee, with the challenges that you didn't think about. And again, they will learn very quickly how well did they plan last quarter or last month or last sprint? What will they do differently? And they'll start to serve up the trade-offs and the needs that you as a leader then want to know and can use then to lay out timeframes to negotiate additional support or to reprioritize work.
Hey, Kate, that was such an amazing conversation. There's so much we can learn from it. One of the things that I took away from it was that Lauren, discovered and acted on an instinct that she had to do something that most organizations skip, which was that before you can distribute decision making, before you open up the decision making process, you have to develop decision makers. You have to build that muscle for independent action and judgment.
And that paid dividends, because that moment when her team started surfacing problems that even she hadn't seen, that's when everything changed. Once her team started thinking like owners, after she put the time into developing them.
And if you're thinking, well, that works for Lauren's team, but not in my team, remember, even she had skeptics. She had a 30-year veteran who said, I'm used to being told what to do. And even this person made the shift with coaching, opportunity, and is now a completely different person at work.
People will surprise you if you just give them a chance. So if you're interested in seeing how this scales to the enterprise level, watch our interview with Kevin Nolan at GE Appliances. He took these same principles and applied them to 12,000 people. It's the first video in this playlist.
And be sure to subscribe to our channel for more leaders at all levels. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and thank you for watching.